Have you ever woken up carrying the weight of not being able to say goodbye to someone you loved? Do you feel like something was left unfinished? That there were words you never said, embraces you never gave? If that emptiness haunts you, what comes next will change everything. There's a pain that few people truly understand. It's the silent pain of someone who couldn't be present in that final moment. The pain of arriving too late, of not hearing those last words, of not being able to close the circle of love with a proper goodbye. If you're here, it's because that pain lives within you. Perhaps it was an accident, a sudden illness, the distance, or simply fate that decided you wouldn't be there. And ever since, you've carried a sadness that won't leave, a guilt that no one else sees, but that you feel every single day. Today, through the teachings of Saint Teresa of Avila, doctor of the Church and teacher of souls, I'll show you something nobody else has told you. Something the Church has known for centuries, but few teach with clarity. Something that will forever change the way you remember the one who has passed. If you want to learn this wisdom, stay with me until the very last minute of this video and listen carefully with a calm heart, because Saint Teresa revealed 3 specific gestures that allow you to say a spiritual goodbye to a loved one who departed even years ago. But if you don't first hear what you should not do, you could block the comfort your soul desperately needs. There are wounds nobody sees. Wounds that leave no visible scars on the skin, but weigh so heavily that sometimes it's hard to breathe. One of the deepest is the wound of not being able to say goodbye, of not being there when your loved one passed, of not saying what you wanted to say, of not embracing one last time, of not closing that sacred circle that connects 2 souls who love each other. Maybe you got the news by phone. Maybe you were far away, in another country, another city, working or caring for someone else. Maybe you arrived at the hospital and it was already too late. Maybe death came so suddenly that nobody had time to notify you. Or perhaps you were nearby, but circumstances, fear, confusion, or pain kept you from entering that room, approaching that bed, holding that hand before it grew cold. And since then, you've lived with a feeling you can't quite explain. It's as if something was left suspended in the air, as if a conversation was cut short, as if a door closed before you could walk through it. And though days pass, though life continues, though others tell you it's time to move on, you know there's something inside you that won't rest. Maybe you wake up in the early morning hours thinking about that moment. Maybe you wonder what would have happened if you'd arrived 5 minutes earlier. Maybe you imagine over and over the words you would have said, the embrace you would have given, the look you would have shared. And every time you think about it, your heart tightens. Because it wasn't your fault, but you feel guilty. Because you did what you could, but you feel it wasn't enough. Because you loved them deeply but couldn't show it one last time. And the worst part is that nobody talks about this. People tell you that what matters is that person knew you loved them. They tell you that you didn't need to be there for your love to be real. They tell you that you must let go, that you must move forward, that you should remember the good times and not get trapped in what couldn't be. And though you understand they mean well, their words don't calm that emptiness, because they don't understand that it's not just about remembering. It's about closure, about completion, about being able to say goodbye the right way. Perhaps you've tried talking to others about this. Perhaps you've sought comfort from friends, family members, even your priest. And though they listen with kindness, you feel that nobody truly understands the magnitude of what you carry inside. Because this wound isn't visible. It's not like an illness that can be diagnosed. It's not like a normal grief that follows the stages everyone knows. It's something deeper. It's a spiritual pain. It's the feeling that something sacred remained incomplete. And what makes everything even harder is that you don't know what to do with this pain. You don't know if it's okay to keep feeling what you're feeling. You don't know if it's right that you keep thinking so much about that moment you never had. You don't know if you're being weak, if you're being selfish, if you're clinging to something you can no longer change. And that confusion wears you down. It makes you feel alone. It makes you believe something is wrong with you. But listen to this carefully. You're not crazy. You're not being dramatic. You're not exaggerating your pain. What you feel is real. What you carry inside is legitimate. And most importantly, you're not alone in this, because what you're experiencing, thousands of souls have experienced before. And among them, one of the church's greatest mystics, a woman who not only understood this pain, but discovered something that changes everything. Saint Teresa of Avila knew the anguish of the unfinished goodbye. She knew the sadness of losing loved ones without being able to be present. She knew the weight of unspoken words and unshared gestures. But above all, she knew something most people are unaware of. Something the church holds in its wisdom, but few teach. Something that has the power to heal that invisible wound you carry today. Because it turns out the goodbye doesn't end with death. Love doesn't stop when the heart stops beating. And even though you weren't there in that final moment, even though you couldn't say goodbye the way you wanted to, there's still a path, a spiritual path, a real path. A path that Saint Teresa walked and taught to her spiritual daughters, and that today is available to you. But what Saint Teresa discovered changes everything you believed about this pain. Saint Teresa of Avila knew the pain of absence. She knew the anguish of not being able to be present when someone beloved was passing. In her autobiography, the book of her life, she herself recounts how her mother's death marked her profoundly. She was barely 14 when her mother died, and though she was present, the pain of that loss haunted her for years. But what Teresa learned afterward, what she discovered on her mystical journey, was something that forever changed her way of relating to those who were no longer here. Teresa understood that there are two ways to approach someone who has died. One is born of pure love. The other is born of guilt disguised as love. And the difference between them determines whether what you do brings peace or simply increases your inner torment. When you act from guilt, everything you do carries an invisible weight. You pray, but you pray to feel less guilty. You offer masses, but you offer them to calm your conscience. You visit the cemetery, but you go seeking forgiveness you believe you didn't receive. And though all of that seems like love, it's really a way of punishing yourself. It's a form of paying a debt that never existed. Saint Teresa was clear in her teachings. She said that God doesn't demand an accounting for what wasn't in our hands, that the Lord knows the intentions of the heart before words are spoken, that true love doesn't need physical presence to be real, and that a soul that departs this world carrying the love of those left behind carries everything needed to face the encounter with God. But guilt is stubborn. Guilt doesn't listen to reason. Guilt feeds on reproaches and grows stronger with silence. And if you don't face it before acting, everything you do will be contaminated. Every prayer will be a desperate plea. Every gesture will be an attempt to rewrite the past. And the past can't be rewritten. The past is accepted, understood, and redeemed from the present. So the first thing you must understand is this. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault you weren't there. It wasn't your fault you arrived late. It wasn't your fault that life decided that moment and not another. Because death doesn't ask. Death doesn't give notice. Death comes when it comes. And neither you nor anyone has power over that instant. And the second thing you must understand is that your loved one already knew you loved them. They knew before departing. They knew in life. Because love isn't shown only in the final moments. Love is shown in each day shared, in each word spoken, in each small gesture, in each silent sacrifice. And if there was love in life, that love was engraved on the soul of the one who departed. It didn't need a formal goodbye to be real, but there's something more, something few people understand. And it's that your loved one, from where they are now, understands much more than they understood in life. Because death isn't an ending, it's a step, it's an awakening, it's an entry into a broader reality where time and space no longer limit understanding. And in that reality, your loved one knows why you weren't there, knows it wasn't abandonment, knows it was destiny that decided, and doesn't judge you, doesn't reproach you, holds no resentment. Saint Teresa had revelations about the souls in purgatory. She saw how these souls didn't ask for reproaches from the living. They didn't ask for justifications. They asked for prayers. They asked for suffrages. They asked that love continue being a bridge between this world and the other. But never did they ask for guilt. So before doing anything, you need to let go of that guilt. You need to look it in the face and tell it that it no longer has power over you. Because while you carry guilt, everything you do will be poisoned. And what comes now, what Saint Teresa will teach you, only works if it's born from pure love. From the love that gives without expecting. From the love that offers without seeking personal redemption. From the love that simply loves. And perhaps you're wondering how you let go of guilt. How you release something that's been inside for so long. And the answer is simple but profound. Guilt is released when you accept that you're human. When you understand that you did what you could with what you had in that moment. When you stop judging yourself with the present's gaze and begin to look at yourself with compassion from the past. Guilt is released when you forgive, not your loved one, but yourself. Because the forgiveness you seek isn't in heaven, it's in your own heart. And until you forgive yourself for not being there, you won't be able to offer your loved one what they truly need. Preparing your heart correctly is the first step. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without this foundation, any gesture will be fragile, any prayer will be weak, any attempt at closure will be superficial. And now that you understand this, now that your heart begins to release the weight of guilt, you can be ready to receive what comes. Because the first gesture that truly changes everything is something within anyone's reach, but almost nobody does it correctly. In the convent of St. Joseph in Avila, Saint Teresa gathered her spiritual daughters to teach them the deepest mysteries of the faith. And among those mysteries was one she guarded with special care. A mystery not taught in public because it required a prepared heart to receive it. A mystery that had to do with communication between this world and the other. Teresa had personally experienced visions of souls in purgatory, souls that appeared to her asking for prayers, souls that showed her their suffering, but also their hope. And in those mystical experiences, Teresa discovered something fundamental. Souls listen, souls feel, souls receive what we offer them from this world. And the first gesture Saint Teresa taught her daughters was this: the prayer of connection. Not just any prayer, not a mechanical rosary or a litany repeated without heart, but a specific prayer that establishes a spiritual bridge between the one who prays and the one who has already departed. A prayer that says, I am here, I remember you, I love you. And though I couldn't say goodbye when you departed, I say goodbye now from this place where time no longer matters. This prayer doesn't seek to change the past. It seeks to complete the present. Because in the spiritual world, time doesn't work like it does on earth. For God, everything is now. And what you do today in prayer has the same power as what you would have done then, because love transcends time. And a prayer made with true love reaches the soul as if it had been pronounced at the very instant of departure. Saint Teresa recommended that this prayer be done in a moment of deep silence. Not in a rush, not between obligations, but in a moment where the heart could open completely. A moment where God's presence was palpable. A moment where faith was stronger than reason. And the prayer must begin with an act of faith. Because without faith, words are just air. Faith is the certainty that the one who is no longer physically present continues to exist in another dimension. Faith is the conviction that love doesn't die with the body. Faith is the assurance that God permits these connections because He Himself is love, and love always seeks to unite, never to separate. So you begin like this. You sit in a quiet place. You light a candle if you wish, because light is a symbol of the divine presence. You close your eyes, you breathe deeply, and you begin speaking to God as one speaks to a father who knows all your pain. You say, Lord, you who are outside of time, you who see everything in an eternal present, receive this prayer I make for the soul of name of your loved one. I know I couldn't say goodbye when they departed. I know time didn't give me that opportunity. But I also know that for you there is no lost time, that what I do now in your presence has the same value as what I would have done then. And then you speak directly to your loved one's soul. You speak as if they were in front of you, because on the spiritual plane, they are. Not with a body, but they are there, and they listen. You say, my love, I know you're no longer in this world. I know you've crossed the threshold we'll all cross. And I know that from where you are now, you understand things I can't yet see. But I need to tell you this. I need you to know that I couldn't say goodbye to you, and that emptiness has weighed on me. Not because I think you didn't know how much I loved you, but because my heart needed to tell you one more time. I needed to close that circle that was left open. And you continue. I ask your forgiveness if I ever failed you, if I wasn't there when you needed me, if my words were ever harsh or my silences were cold. I don't know if you need my forgiveness from where you are, but I need to offer it to you, because I want nothing to remain pending between us. And then you say the most important thing. I let you go. I let you depart in peace. Not because I'm forgetting you, but because I love you enough not to hold you back with my pain. Continue your journey toward God. And I trust that someday, when it's my turn to cross that threshold, we'll meet again. But until then, live in my memory, without my memory being a chain. Saint Teresa taught that this prayer must always end with a total surrender to God's will, because we're not the ones who decide the destiny of souls. It's God in His infinite mercy. So you finish by saying, Lord, I place in your hands the soul of my loved one. Do with them what your infinite love considers best, and give me the peace of knowing I did what was in my hands. And when you finish, remain in silence. Don't get up immediately. Don't return to your routine as if nothing happened. Stay there, in that silence where God speaks without words. In that silence where the departed soul can make you feel their presence in subtle but real ways. This is the first gesture, the most important one, the one that establishes the spiritual connection, the one that closes what was left open. But this first gesture is only the beginning. There's something deeper that must accompany it, something related to your own words. Words have power, not only in this world, but also in the other. Saint Teresa knew this. She herself wrote in her works that words spoken with faith and love transcend the barriers of death. That words spoken from the heart reach the soul like rain watering dry earth. And that there are specific words the departed need to hear in order to advance on their path toward God. Because souls that depart this world carry with them not only their merits and faults, but also the bonds they wove in life. And those bonds don't disappear with death. They transform. And in that transformation, the words we offer them from this side have real spiritual weight. But not just any word works. It's not about talking to the deceased as if they were still alive. It's not about telling them about your day or asking for advice as if they were an oracle. It's about pronouncing the words that remained pending. The words that time didn't allow you to say. The words you carry in your chest and that need to come out so your heart can rest. Saint Teresa recommended that these words be pronounced aloud, not just in the mind, because the voice gives body to intention. The voice materializes the invisible. The voice makes prayer stop being just thought and become action, and actions have more power than thoughts. So seek again that place of silence, that place where the outside world doesn't interrupt. And when you're ready, pronounce these words with all your heart. Say, I love you. Yes, as simple as that, but say it truly, not as a formula. Say it feeling every letter, because love is the most powerful force that exists. And an I love you pronounced with all your heart has more power than 1,000 prayers said without feeling. And then say, thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for every shared moment. Thank you for every laugh, every embrace, every word of comfort. Thank you for making me a better person. Thank you for teaching me what true love is. And after that, say, forgive me. Forgive me for the times I wasn't there. Forgive me for harsh words. Forgive me for cold silences. Forgive me for not being perfect. Forgive me for not knowing how to say goodbye when I had the chance. Forgive me for believing we'd have more time. And also say, I forgive you. Because perhaps your loved one also failed you. Perhaps there were words that hurt. Perhaps there were silences that wounded. Perhaps there were decisions you didn't understand. And now is the moment to release all of that. Not to carry resentments beyond death. To free them so they can move forward without chains. Saint Teresa taught that mutual forgiveness is essential for the peace of both, because while there's resentment, the bond is contaminated, and a contaminated bond doesn't allow love to flow freely. So forgive. Forgive everything. Forgive even what you believed unforgivable, because now all of that no longer matters. The only thing that matters is that the soul can rest and that you can live in peace. And then comes the hardest part. The part many people avoid because it hurts, but it's necessary. Say, I let you go. Say these words even though it's difficult, even though you feel that by saying them you're losing them again, because it's not like that. Letting them go isn't forgetting them. Letting them go is loving them enough not to hold them back with your pain. Say, I let you go toward where God calls you. I don't hold you back with my sadness. I don't tie you with my guilt. You are free, and I also need to be free. Free from this weight I carry. Free from this sadness that consumes me. I let you go because I love you, and because I know that someday we'll meet again. And finish with a promise that isn't for the deceased but for yourself. Say, I promise to live well. I promise to honor your memory by living with love. I promise not to stay trapped in the past. I promise to move forward knowing you watch over me from where you are. I promise not to forget you, but also not to let your absence prevent me from being happy. These words are a personal sacrament, an intimate ritual between you and the departed soul. And Saint Teresa assured that souls who receive these words feel profound relief, because they too carry unfinished goodbyes. They too need to hear that everything is okay, that there are no pending debts, that love remains intact despite death. But there's a third gesture that most people do wrong, and that's why they don't feel peace afterward. There's a gesture almost everyone makes when someone dies. A gesture that seems natural, that seems right, that seems the only way to keep the memory alive. And that gesture is visiting the cemetery, bringing flowers, cleaning the grave, sitting in front of the headstone and talking to the deceased as if they were there. And there's nothing wrong with that. Saint Teresa didn't condemn these practices, but she did warn about the way they're done, because there's an abysmal difference between visiting a grave from love and visiting it from guilt, between bringing flowers as an offering and bringing them as penance, between talking to the deceased from peace and talking from desperation. Many people turn the cemetery into their place of torture. They go every week, every day, and each time they go, they relive the pain. Each time they go, they punish themselves for not having been present. Each time they go, they reopen the wound instead of letting it heal. And they believe that the more they suffer, the more love they demonstrate. But that's not love. That's guilt disguised as devotion. Saint Teresa taught that the cemetery isn't the place where the soul resides. The body is there. The mortal remains are there. But the soul, that divine spark that animated that body for years, is no longer in that place. The soul is on another plane, and it doesn't need you to visit its grave to feel your love. So if you go to the cemetery, go from peace. Go to remember, not to suffer. Go to be grateful, not to lament. Go to converse in silence, not to beg for forgiveness. And when you leave, leave in peace. Not with that feeling of emptiness that haunts you every time you exit. And the flowers. Oh, the flowers. How many people spend fortunes on flowers believing that's what the deceased needs? And flowers are beautiful. Flowers are a symbol of life. But flowers don't feed the soul. Flowers don't relieve purgatory. Flowers don't accelerate the encounter with God. Do you know what feeds the soul? Prayer. Do you know what relieves purgatory? Mass. Do you know what accelerates the encounter with God? Alms given in the name of the deceased. These are the true gestures of love. These are the ones that have real spiritual value. Saint Teresa was clear about this. She said she'd prefer 1,000 times that her daughters pray a single Hail Mary for her soul than see her grave covered with flowers every day. Because flowers wither, prayers remain, and Mass. Ah, Mass. The greatest act of love you can offer for a deceased person. Because at Mass, Christ's sacrifice on the cross is made present again. And that sacrifice has infinite power. A power that transcends time and space. A power that reaches into the depths of purgatory and relieves the suffering of souls. But many people request masses as if fulfilling a formality. They go to the priest, leave the intention, pay the offering, and leave. And they believe that with that, they've fulfilled their duty. But Mass isn't a formality. Mass is a living encounter with Christ. And if you don't participate in that Mass with faith, with presence, with an open heart, you're wasting the greatest gift you can offer. So when you request a Mass for your loved one, attend it. Don't send someone else. Don't pay for it and leave. Attend, participate. Offer that Mass with all your heart. Unite your intention with the priest's. Unite your pain with Christ's cross. And trust that this sacrifice is working miracles in the soul of the one you love. And alms. Giving in the name of the deceased. Not just any alms. Not the leftover coin, but alms that hurt a little. Alms that are real sacrifice. Because sacrifice has redemptive value. And when you give from what you need, not just from what you have extra, that alms becomes powerful suffrage. Saint Teresa told how once one of her nuns asked what was better, praying 100 rosaries or giving generous alms for a soul. And Teresa responded, "It depends on the heart with which you do it. But if you ask me what relieves purgatory more, I'll tell you that alms united with prayer is unbeatable. Because in alms there is charity, and charity covers a multitude of sins. So review your gestures. Review how much time you spend at the cemetery and how much time you spend truly praying. Review how much money you spend on flowers and how much you invest in masses. Review whether your actions are feeding your guilt or are truly helping the soul of the one you love. Because your loved one doesn't need flowers. They need prayers. They don't need luxurious headstones. They need masses. They don't need you to suffer. They need you to live well and offer your life as a continuous offering. And now that you know these 3 gestures, now that you know how to say goodbye with prayer, how to speak with true words, and how to offer what they truly need, You need to know how to unite them without the pain consuming you again. You already know the 3 gestures. You already know you can say goodbye with prayer. You already know you can speak with true words. You already know you can offer masses and alms. But now comes the hardest question. How do you do all this without the pain destroying you? How do you close what was left open without forcing your heart? How do you move forward without feeling you're betraying the memory? Because there's a real danger in all this. And the danger is wanting to close too quickly, wanting to heal overnight, wanting to force peace when the heart isn't yet ready. And when you force the process, all you achieve is burying the pain instead of healing it. And buried pain always returns, stronger, darker, more destructive. Saint Teresa knew this danger. She herself spent years processing her mother's death, years in which the pain came and went like waves. And in those years, she learned something fundamental. Grief has its own rhythm, and you can't rush it. You can only accompany it with love and patience. So the first thing you must understand is this. There's no deadline. There's no time limit to close grief. It doesn't matter if months or years have passed since your loved one departed. What matters is that when you make these gestures, you make them from an authentic place, from a place where your heart is truly ready to release. And how do you know if you're ready? You'll know you're ready when you can remember without the memory paralyzing you. When you can talk about the deceased without your voice breaking with every word. When you can see photos without feeling a dagger pierce your chest. That's the sign. That's the green light. But if you're not there yet, don't force yourself. Don't make these gestures just because someone told you that you should. Don't make them because you think it's time. Make them when your heart asks for it, when you feel it's the right moment. Because these gestures are sacred, and the sacred isn't rushed. Saint Teresa recommended a specific rhythm. She said that the prayer of connection, that prayer where you establish the spiritual bridge, should be done just once with all intention, once with all your heart, and then let it rest. Don't repeat it every day like an obsessive mantra, because if you repeat it too much, you lose the strength of the original intention. But the words, those words of love, forgiveness, and liberation, those you can repeat as many times as you need. Because each time you pronounce them, something inside you settles. Each time you pronounce them, something softens. Each time you pronounce them, the heart prepares itself to release. And the masses. Masses can be offered regularly. There's no limit. Each Mass is a new embrace from Christ to your loved one's soul. Each Mass is a new ray of light that penetrates purgatory's shadows. So offer Masses when you can, once a month, once a year on the anniversary. In moments when you feel the soul is asking for it. And when you participate in those Masses, do so with full presence. Don't go with your mind elsewhere. Don't go just to fulfill an obligation. Go to encounter Christ. Go to unite your pain with His. Go to ask for mercy for the soul of the one you love, and trust that this offering is working miracles you can't see, but that are real. And alms. Alms also have their moment. Saint Teresa said it was good to give significant alms on the anniversary of the death, or on the deceased's birthday, or on special dates that were important to both of you, because on those dates the heart is more sensitive, and what's offered from that sensitivity has special value. But don't obsess over the gestures. Don't turn this into a to-do list. Don't fill yourself with spiritual obligations that end up exhausting you. Because the goal isn't to tire you. The goal is to heal. And healing doesn't come from the quantity of things you do, but from the quality of heart with which you do them. And while you make these gestures, pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to how you feel after praying. Pay attention to dreams. Pay attention to those small coincidences that seem like messages. Because sometimes your loved one's soul finds subtle ways to let you know they received what you offered. And when you feel peace, when you feel something inside, you settled. When you feel you can finally breathe without that weight on your chest, then you'll know you achieved it. You'll know you closed what was left open. You'll know you said goodbye, even though there was no physical goodbye. And that peace doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean you stop loving. It doesn't mean the memory is erased. It means love no longer hurts. It means memory no longer paralyzes you. It means you can move forward without feeling you're betraying the deceased, because the greatest tribute you can make to the one you loved is to live well, to live with joy, to live with fullness, because from where they are, that's what they want for you. But perhaps you're wondering, did my loved one truly receive all this? What Saint Teresa experienced with souls in purgatory will give you an answer nobody else has given you. Saint Teresa of Avila had mystical experiences that few people in church history have had. She saw souls in purgatory. She spoke with them. She felt their suffering and also their hope. And in those experiences, she learned something the church teaches, but few understand deeply. Souls are alive, more alive than ever. And they can communicate with us in ways that transcend human logic. In the book of her life, Teresa narrates how one night while praying, she felt the presence of a soul that had just departed. It was a priest she knew, and that soul asked her for prayers, not with audible words, but with an interior certainty so strong it left no room for doubt. Teresa prayed for him. She offered sacrifices. And days later, in another mystical experience, she saw that same soul ascending to heaven, freed from purgatory. And Teresa asked the Lord, how is it possible that souls communicate with us? And the answer she received was clear, because love knows no barriers, and where there is true love, there is real communication. So if you've made the gestures I've taught you, if you've prayed with faith, if you've spoken with an open heart, if you've offered masses and alms, your loved one received all of that, and it's very likely they're sending you signs. Subtle signs we often ignore because reason tells us they're just coincidences. But they're not coincidences. They're responses from the soul you love. One of the most common signs is sudden peace. That peace that comes without apparent reason. You're at home, perhaps doing something ordinary, and suddenly you feel a deep calm. A calm that hadn't come for months. A calm that has no logical explanation. And in that calm, if you pay attention, there's a presence, not physical, but real. It's your loved one's soul telling you, I'm well, I received your goodbye, and I'm at peace. Another frequent sign is dreams, but not just any dream. Dreams where the person appears luminous, calm, smiling. Dreams where there are no words, but there's a clear message. Dreams where you feel it's more than just a dream, that it's a real encounter on another plane. Saint Teresa taught that God permits these encounters when the soul needs to console those left behind. When the soul wants to say, don't cry for me anymore, I no longer suffer. And there's another sign few people understand. It's the sign of momentary forgetting. It sounds strange, but it's real. Suddenly you go hours without thinking about the deceased. Hours where you're at peace, where your mind isn't obsessed with the loss. And when you realize that, you feel guilty. You think, how could I forget them even for a moment? But it's not forgetting. It's liberation. It's a sign that the soul is releasing you so you can live. It's a sign that your goodbye was received and the soul is allowing you to move forward. There are also external signs. Those small coincidences that seem like messages. A song that plays at the exact moment. A perfume you perceive out of nowhere. A butterfly that lands on your hand. A number that constantly repeats. Reason will tell you they're coincidences, but the heart knows they're not. The heart knows they're winks from the soul telling you, I'm still here, in another way, but I'm still here. Saint Teresa warned that we shouldn't seek these signs obsessively. We shouldn't turn them into our only source of comfort, because faith doesn't depend on signs. Faith is trust in the invisible. But when signs come, we should receive them with gratitude. as gifts from heaven, as confirmations that everything we did made sense, and there's a supreme sign. One not everyone experiences, but when it comes, is unmistakable. It's interior certainty, that soundless voice that tells you, it's done. You can let go now. It's a certainty that doesn't come from your mind, doesn't come from your will. It comes from a deeper place. It comes from the Holy Spirit who dwells in you and knows all things. When that certainty comes, don't question it, don't analyze it, simply receive it and let your heart rest. Because that certainty is a sign that your loved one is well, that your goodbye was complete, that the love that united you in life remains intact but transformed. And transformed doesn't mean weakened, it means elevated. Because love that survives death is purer, stronger, more eternal than any earthly love. It's the love St. Paul describes when he says, love never fails. It's the love that transcends body, time, space. It's the love that remains because it has its origin in God Himself. So pay attention. Open your heart to these signs. Don't force them. Don't invent them, but when they come, recognize them and give thanks. Because each sign is a confirmation that death didn't have the last word, that love did. And if you haven't received any sign yet, don't despair. It doesn't mean your goodbye didn't arrive. It means perhaps the soul doesn't need to send you signs because they're already at peace. Or it means the signs will come at just the right moment when your heart is ready to receive them. Trust the process. Trust God's timing. And trust that everything you did with true love had its effect in the invisible world. But there are specific moments when this pain returns with force, and you need to know how to face them without falling apart. You thought you were okay. You thought you'd closed the grief. You thought you'd made peace with the loss. And then the anniversary comes. Or the birthday. Or Christmas. And everything returns. The pain returns. The sadness returns. The emptiness returns. And you wonder if you truly healed or if you were just pretending to be okay. And the answer is that yes, you healed. But grief isn't linear. Grief isn't a straight line that goes from pain to peace without setbacks. Grief is a spiral. You move forward, you go back, you move forward again. And at certain times of the year, on certain dates marked on the calendar, the pain returns, because those dates have memory. Saint Teresa knew this well. She lived through painful anniversaries, Christmases without her mother, birthdays without loved ones. And in those moments, even being a profound mystic, she felt the weight of absence. But she learned to get through those moments without falling apart. And what she learned can help you now. The first anniversary is the hardest. It's the first birthday without that person, the first Christmas without their laughter, the first year without their embrace. And on that first anniversary, everything hurts twice as much. Because in addition to the pain of absence, there's the pain of realizing that life continued without them, that the world kept turning, that people kept celebrating, and you feel guilty for still being alive while the one you loved is no longer here. But listen to this carefully. Continuing to live isn't betrayal. Feeling joy amid pain isn't betrayal. Celebrating even though there's an empty place at the table isn't betrayal, because life is a gift from God. And wasting that gift out of guilt is an offense to the Creator who gave it to you. Saint Teresa said, live each day as if it were a gift, because it is. And the one who loved you in life doesn't want to see you destroyed. They want to see you alive, truly alive, not just breathing. So when the anniversary comes, don't avoid it. Don't act as if that day doesn't exist. Acknowledge it. Honor that day. But do so from love, not from suffering. You can wake up that morning and light a candle, and while the candle burns, you can remember. Remember the happy moments. Remember the laughter. Remember the embraces, not the last days of illness, not the moment of death, but life. the full life you shared. And you can offer a Mass that day. Go to church. Participate in the Eucharist with special intention for your loved one's soul. And at that Mass, unite yourself to Christ's sacrifice. Feel that you're not alone in your pain, that Christ Himself knows the pain of loss, that He too wept before Lazarus' tomb, and that He understands what you feel. And after Mass, you can go to the cemetery if you wish. Bring flowers if that comforts you, but don't go to suffer. Go to be grateful. Be grateful for the years you had together. Be grateful for the love you received. Be grateful for the memories no one can take from you. And then go home and live that day. Don't lock yourself in sadness. Don't stay paralyzed on the couch crying until night comes. Do something your loved one would have wanted you to do. Cook their favorite food, listen to their favorite music. Do something that honors their memory actively. And if tears come that day, let them flow. Don't repress them. Crying isn't weakness. Crying is human. Crying is healthy. But don't let it be crying that destroys you. Let it be crying that liberates. Crying that cleanses. Crying that afterward allows you to breathe more deeply. And when night comes, before sleeping, you can do something beautiful. You can write a letter addressed to your loved one, a letter where you tell them how this year was without them, a letter where you tell them what you feel, what you've learned, how you've grown. And at the end of that letter, you can write, "Thank you for being in my life. And though you're no longer physically here, you're still alive in my heart." Saint Teresa recommended this exercise. She herself wrote letters to her mother years after her death. And she said that writing those letters gave her a peace nothing else gave her. Because in writing, she organized her thoughts. In writing, she expressed what her voice couldn't say. In writing, she closed cycles that were still open. And the following anniversaries will be softer. It's not that they hurt less, but they hurt differently. Because each anniversary that passes is confirmation that you can survive the absence, that you can live even though the emptiness is still there, that you can be happy even with the memory of pain. And one day, perhaps on the 10th anniversary or the 20th, you'll realize that day no longer destroys you, that you can remember with nostalgia, but without agony, that you can smile thinking of the one you loved without the smile turning into tears. And that day, you'll know the healing was real, that love conquered pain, that life conquered death. And if you ever thought, "I arrived late," or "I didn't have time," what comes now will free you from that chain. I arrived late. How many times have you repeated those words? How many times have you punished yourself with that phrase? I arrived late. 2 words that carry the weight of 1,000 reproaches. 2 words that have become a chain. 2 words that have prevented you from living in peace. But today, those words break. Today, that chain shatters. Because the truth about arriving late isn't what you've believed all these years. Listen to this carefully. You didn't arrive late. You arrived in the time God permitted. And if God permitted you to arrive afterward, it was because that was the right time. Not for you, not for your loved one, but for the divine plan that transcends your human understanding. Saint Teresa of Avila faced many deaths in her life, and some of those deaths found her far away, without the possibility of arriving in time, without the possibility of giving the last embrace. And in one of her letters, she wrote something profound. She wrote, "The Lord knows why He permits certain absences. And though we don't understand it now, one day we'll see it clear as crystal." And do you know what Teresa discovered in her mystical experiences? She discovered that souls who depart don't measure love by physical presence in the final moment. Souls measure love by an entire life of gestures, by all the days shared, by all the words of affection, by all the silent sacrifices. And if there was love in life, the final moment is just that, a moment. It doesn't define all the love that existed. But guilt tells you something else. Guilt whispers to you, if you had truly loved, you would have been there. And that voice is a liar. Because love isn't measured by being present at the last breath. Love is measured by having been present in all the previous breaths. Think about it this way. If your loved one could have chosen, what would they have preferred? Having you in the last minute of their life, or having you in all the previous years? The answer is obvious. And if you were there in all the previous years, then you didn't arrive late. You arrived on time to love, on time to share, on time to build memories that not even death can erase. And there's something else you need to understand, something the church teaches but few people comprehend. And it's that the moment of death isn't the most important moment of life. The most important moment is each instant lived in grace, each instant lived in love. And if your loved one lived loved, if they knew you loved them, then the final instant is just the closing of a beautiful story. Not the only chapter that matters. Saint Teresa had a revelation about this. She saw in one of her visions how souls, upon arriving on the other side, understand everything. They understand why things happened the way they happened. They understand that each absence had a purpose. They understand that love doesn't need witnesses to be real. And those souls don't hold resentment. They don't feel abandoned. They don't blame those who couldn't be present. Because from the other side, everything is seen with clarity. Everything is understood with a wisdom that transcends human pain. So when you tell yourself, I arrived late, change that phrase. Say instead, I wasn't there in the final moment, but I was there for an entire life. Say, I couldn't give the last embrace, but I gave 1,000 embraces before. Say, I didn't hear their last words, but I heard all the previous ones. And if you weren't there for an entire life, if for some reason the relationship was distant, if there were years of separation, even then you didn't arrive late. Because in the spiritual world, repentance has retroactive power. What you do now, the prayers you offer, the masses you have celebrated, all of that reaches the soul as if you had done it then. Because for God, there's no past or future. For God, everything is an eternal present, and what you offer today has the same value as what you would have offered then, perhaps even more. Because what you offer today, you offer from a mature pain, from a purified love, from a heart that learned to love without expecting anything in return. And your loved one, from where they are, knows it wasn't abandonment, knows it wasn't lack of love, knows it was circumstances that decided, and doesn't judge you, doesn't condemn you, doesn't wait for your late arrival to forgive you, because they already forgave you before you even forgave yourself. So release that chain, release that phrase, release that self-imposed punishment, because you didn't arrive late, you arrived exactly when you had to arrive. And if you didn't arrive physically, you arrived spiritually. And on the spiritual plane, which is what truly matters, it's never too late to love. And now, something that will forever change your way of remembering why your love was never incomplete. There's something you need to understand, something that will forever change your way of seeing death and goodbye. Something Saint Teresa of Avila discovered in the deepest part of her mystical life, and that the Church has taught since its beginnings, but many forget. True love doesn't need goodbyes. Because true love doesn't live in final words. It doesn't live in the last embrace. It doesn't live in the instant of departure. True love lives in each day shared, in each small gesture, in each look, in each complicit silence, in each sacrifice no one saw, in each forgiveness no one heard, in each ordinary moment that became extraordinary simply because you were together. And that love was already complete, was already sealed, was already eternal long before death came. Because love that's born from God and lived in God doesn't depend on perfect endings. It doesn't depend on farewell ceremonies. It doesn't depend on words pronounced at the last breath. Saint Teresa wrote in the interior castle something profound. She wrote, "Souls that love each other in God are united by a bond that death cannot break, because that bond wasn't woven by flesh but by spirit. And what the spirit unites, neither time nor distance nor death can separate." So look back. Look at all those years you shared, all those moments you now treasure, all those memories no one can take from you. Each of those moments was a goodbye in miniature. Each embrace was an "I love you." Each smile was a "thank you for existing." Each shared tear was an "I'm here with you." And all of that together formed a goodbye that lasted an entire life. You didn't need a final dramatic moment. You didn't need solemn words beside a deathbed, because your love had already spoken. Your love had already shouted. Your love had already said everything it had to say in 1,000 small moments that seemed insignificant, but in reality were eternal. And your loved one knew it, always knew it, from the first gesture of love to the last day you shared. Knew it even though you never said it aloud. Knew it even though you never pronounced the exact words. Because true love doesn't need to be explained. True love is felt, is breathed, is lived. And now from the other side, your loved one knows it with even more clarity. Because death doesn't obscure understanding. Death illuminates it. Death removes the veil that prevents us from seeing clearly. And in that absolute clarity, your loved one sees all the love you gave, all the sacrifice you made, all the surrender you offered, and finds no fault, finds no emptiness, finds no unfinished goodbye, because the goodbye was already complete from the moment you decided to love, from the moment you gave your heart, from the moment you built a life next to that person, or from the moment you carried them in your heart, even though distance separated you. And if there were mistakes, if there were harsh words, if there were moments of coldness, all of that was also part of love. Because human love is imperfect, human love stumbles, human love fails, but it's still love. And God doesn't measure love by its perfection. God measures love by its authenticity. Saint Teresa said that souls in purgatory don't ask for perfection from those left behind. They ask for authenticity. They ask that love was real, though imperfect. And if love was real, then everything is complete. Everything is closed. Everything is at peace. And the communion of saints, that beautiful mystery the Church professes, isn't just a theological doctrine. It's a living reality. It's the certainty that those we love who have already departed aren't separated from us. They're in another dimension, yes, but they're not far. They're closer than you imagine, closer than reason can comprehend, because heaven isn't a distant place. Heaven is a reality that interweaves with this reality, and those who are in heaven or on the way to heaven continue loving, continue praying, continue accompanying in ways we don't see but that are real. So stop looking for the closure you think you're missing, because you're not missing it. You already have it. You've always had it, from the first day you loved. And that closure doesn't need final words, doesn't need dramatic gestures, doesn't need perfect moments. That closure lives in the love you shared. And that love didn't die. That love didn't end. That love only transformed, was purified, was elevated, and now it's stronger than ever. Because it's a love that survived the most difficult test, death. And in that transformation, you also transformed. You're no longer who you were before this loss. You're stronger, you're deeper, you're more conscious of what truly matters in life. And that transformation is a gift. A painful gift? Yes, but a gift nonetheless. Because now you know that true love doesn't die. Now you know that death doesn't have the last word. Now you know there's something beyond this visible world. And that knowledge will accompany you the rest of your life and will give you peace. A peace the world cannot give. A peace that only comes from God. And in this peace, there's something more Saint Teresa wants you to know before finishing. You've made it this far. And if you've made it this far, it's because your heart was seeking answers, seeking comfort, seeking peace. And I hope that today, in this moment, you found what your soul needed. Because what Saint Teresa taught you today isn't theory. It's not empty philosophy. It's mystical experience. It's proven wisdom. It's truth that has consoled thousands of souls for centuries. And now that truth is yours, you already know you can say goodbye, even though there was no physical goodbye. You already know you can speak to your loved one, even though they are no longer in this world. You already know you can offer masses, prayers, and alms that ease their path toward God. You already know science exists and that love transcends death. You already know you didn't arrive late, and you already know your love was never incomplete. All of this is yours now. All of this lives in your heart, and no one can take it from you. But there's something else I want you to understand, and it's that this healing process doesn't end here. This video was the beginning, was the seed, but that seed needs to be watered, needs to be cared for, needs to grow. So keep praying, keep offering masses, keep speaking to your loved one from love. Keep living with the certainty that death didn't separate what God united, and above all, keep living, because life is sacred. And wasting it out of guilt is an offense to the Creator. And if at some moment the pain returns, if on some anniversary you feel everything comes back, remember what you learned here. Remember that grief isn't linear. Remember it's okay to feel sadness, but that sadness shouldn't destroy you. That sadness should transform you. That sadness should make you more human, more compassionate, more conscious of the fragile and the eternal. And remember, you're not alone. That Saint Teresa walks with you, that the Virgin Mary accompanies you, that Christ Himself knows your pain, because He too lost loved ones, and that all of them sustain you in moments when you feel you can't go on. And if this video helped you, if these words brought peace to your heart, share it. Share it with someone who also carries the weight of an unfinished goodbye. Because there are millions of people who need to hear this. Millions of people who believe they arrived late. Millions of people who need to know that love never dies. And if you want to keep learning about the mysteries of faith, about Saint Teresa's teachings, about how to live a deep spiritual life, subscribe to this channel. Because every week I share content that can transform your life. Content you won't find anywhere else. Content born from the heart of the Church and reaching straight to your soul. And now go in peace. Go with the certainty that everything is well, that your loved one is at rest, that your love was enough, that your goodbye was complete, and that someday, when it's your turn to cross that threshold, you'll meet again. But this time, forever. May God bless you. May Saint Teresa accompany you, and may Christ's peace flood your heart today and always.